You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
It was a downpour that turned into a snowstorm that turned into a Bills win. Week 14 recap here on the Audible, and it's Bills 20, Jets 12. Mike White was out there taking a lot of punishment, 268 yards passing. Garrett Wilson, 6 for 78. Elijah Moore, 6 for 60. Denzel Mims, 3 for 35. Tyler Conklin, 5 for 28 in this one. Corey Davis banged up. If you had him in as a what the heck flex on him at night, 17 for 71 and 1 touchdown with Michael Carter back, by the way, Bloom. So the Jets did have fight. Mike White took a beating, only 3 sacks, but he was getting hit left and right in this rainy/snowy day in Buffalo.
Yeah, the Jets are the team that's supposed to win ugly. They don't get the sweep. Mike White, like you said, he's hanging in there, throwing punches. Joe Flacco comes in for a cameo to fumble. It started with an Ed Oliver hit on Mike White, and he kept trying to gut it out. The offense did heat up at the end of the first half. Zonovan Knight got the touchdown. And again, when Robert Saleh says he's not going anywhere about Zonovan Knight, he's giving us advice as fantasy players. Leave him in your lineup against Detroit next week. Detroit's defense is doing better, but Zonovan Knight is a real thing for the fantasy playoffs. And Elijah Moore is a real thing, maybe. Corey Davis goes out with a head injury. I don't know if we'll see Davis next week. So, again, against Detroit, we'll talk about what Kirk Cousins did against Detroit today. Then the Jets they're up against it. The Lions are up against it. I would love to see a playoffs where both of these teams are in, but the winner next week will probably have a much better chance.
Yeah, much better chance. The Buffalo side, 147 yards for Josh Allen, 1 touchdown, but 1 rushing touchdown and 47 yards rushing to aid his day. Again, weather was a factor. Got a lot of James Cook or Devin Singletary questions.
Oh,
Neither. Dawson
Sorry.
Knox, 4 for 41 and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 3 for 37. It's a floor game, everybody. So, yeah, weather was a factor, and they won a tough and ugly game. So there you go.
Yeah, weather was a factor. The Jets' defense was a big factor. Quinnen Williams had 2 sacks in the first half and then left with a calf injury. Wonder how this one would have went if that injury doesn't happen. Dawson Knox gets spun in the air second time around. The ball gets over the plane for the touchdown. May trick you into playing him next week against Miami, by the way. So maybe you would want to play him. That could be a high-scoring game. Actually, the biggest play on offense in the passing game was a long pass interference against Khalil Shakir. Well, defending Khalil Shakir. Josh Allen got a rush touchdown after that. The passing game, the running game, there was nothing here. And like you said, Cease, James Cook, the sad thing here is Cook was effective as a receiver, effective as a runner. You thought they had something new here. Josh Allen maybe not 100%, have a more balanced offense. The Jets' run defense is easier to attack than their pass defense. You didn't see any of that. So not exactly rational coaching, certainly not the result you were looking for from a fantasy standpoint. The conditions, again, playing a part, but a win that the Bills needed to stay number 1. And now Miami's coming to town.
These are not the results you're looking for, but this is the next game up anyway. If you're a Browns fan, you didn't like the result. If you're a Bengals fan, you're rolling. 23-10 is the final score. It is the Bengals. They defeat the Browns. So there you go. And Deshaun Watson, all right, he's out there trying. 26 of 42, 276, 1 touchdown, 1 INT. Jacoby Brissett came in for a little bit. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 8 for 114. This is a data point. David Njoku, 7 for 59 and a touchdown, data point. Amari Cooper, 2 for 42, including a pretty catch on the sidelines there. Nick Chubb, 14 for 34. As teams are going to stack the line, stuff the run, dare Deshaun Watson to beat him, and, well, he didn't today.
You nailed it, Cease. It's dare Deshaun Watson to beat you, and he can't right now. Amari Cooper was game time decision, had a couple of plays early, didn't do much. We had reports that Donovan Peoples-Jones was Deshaun Watson's favorite early in camp. It looked like it in this one. Now, a better matchup, although not on the play, throw it in the end zone to try to get the Browns back in the game. Cam Taylor-Britt, they got a baller here in the secondary for the Bengals, breaking that up. You did have a nice Njoku touchdown drive. There was a 13-play field goal drive, but really the Browns, Kevin Stefanski, took whatever momentum they had early on. Watson moves them down the field, 4th and 1. They bring in Jacoby Brissett. To throw a deep ball, and he overthrows it. Why would you bring someone in cold off the bench to throw a deep ball on 4th and 1? So that they stubbed their toe there. Chubb and Cooper were contained. So figuring out this offense from a fantasy standpoint, still a work in progress against a Baltimore defense next week. That's tough. All these 5-8 teams, you basically got to win out to make the playoffs. And that Baltimore game will force Deshaun Watson to improve if they want to get there.
If he can, Joe Burrow, 18 of 33, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Jamar Chase with 1, 10 for 119 and 1 touchdown. And then Trenton Irwin, 2 for 58 and a touchdown there as well. And nobody else did much of anything in terms of receivers. We'll talk about Tyler Boyd a little bit or whatever. Like Joe Mixon was back, 14 of 96 on the ground. Okay, Samaje Perine got a rushing touchdown, though. So benefiting his day. If you had Perine as a flex play, you're fine. If you had Mixon as an RB1, well, you're pretty fine with 96 yards on the ground. So let's talk about how the Bengals did it a little differently this time.
Yeah, it was a resilient team. T. Higgins goes out with a hamstring. Tyler Boyd goes out with a finger injury. I'm not sure if we're going to see them next week against Tampa Bay. Jamar Chase can handle it. There was a touchdown pass to Jamar Chase where I don't know that Chase knew the ball was in the air until he turned around and saw it in the air, which shows you that connection. Split 2 defenders threading the needle. Trent Irwin touchdown was on a flea flicker. So again, resourceful. Hey, 2 of your top 3 receivers are out. Hayden Hurst is out. How are you going to make Trent Irwin a downfield threat? With a flea flicker. And then Joe Mixon comes on with some tough running to help close this one out. Samaje Perine did get the touchdown because it was in the 2-minute drill. Maybe next week, if they do only have Jamar Chase healthy out of their top 4 pass catchers, we could see more Perine and Mixon as the engine of the offense. Joe Burrow, not a great fantasy day, but you don't expect that when you lose 2 of your top 3 receivers. I think Cincinnati sees it at this point. It's almost like for our next trick, we'll win with our arms tied behind our back. This is a team that is showing they're going to evolve. They're going to adapt. They're going to find ways to win. They're a great team. And I look forward to seeing how far this season can take them.
Adapt and thrive, or was it protest and survive? Either way, those
Survive
are
and advance.
There you go. Survive and advance, and have a Jeff Driscoll package. Bloom, I was doing a 2-hour pregame show with No Sean Moreno, but I saw that Jeff Driscoll was in, and I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Jeff Driscoll package. Okay. Texans and Cowboys. Now, it turns out the way that we thought, Cowboys win, but it turns out a little bit differently because the Texans show some fight. So let's talk about the 23-27 Texans loss, but Davis Mills slinging it, 175, no touchdowns, 1 INT. Jeff Driscoll had the touchdown to Amari Rodgers, 457 at a touch. Chris Moore had 10 for 124. And then Dameon Pierce had a rushing touchdown and 22 carries for 78 yards. Driscoll also had 36 yards rushing. So Driscoll package, weirdness, craziness, takes a late score for the Cowboys to win this thing. It was odd, Bloom.
And the Cowboys had a stop on 4th down early in the game, and then they had a goal line stop after Dameon Pierce got hurt. This game was this close to being 30-20. And the Cowboys really looking at long odds in a game they can't lose if they want to have any hopes of winning the division. But on that Houston side, like you said, it was a quarterback platoon. And hey, Jeff Driscoll. I mean, isn't this the story of the Texans? They're the misfit toys. Jeff Driscoll, Amari Rodgers scores. Chris Moore has a big game. These are all the rejects. These are all the players that other teams couldn't find a use for. Dameon Pierce, a lot of teams could find a use for. He gets a touchdown after a muff punt. And that's what gave the Texans a thought here. You know, a muff punt by Turpin. They get a touchdown after that. The Cowboys were moving the ball pretty easily on offense, but the Texans weren't going away here. And then finally on a 4th and goal, as I said, 23-20, 4th and goal, they decide to go for it. And they started it off. Chris Moore got the ball down to the 1. They called an option with Davis Mills and Rex Burkhead. An option. Please. Really? Just hurt Pep. I love Pep Hamilton. When you watch Justin Herbert, remember Pep Hamilton helped his career in the NFL really get off on the right foot. Wanted to see the upset here. Kansas City, they're not going to upset Kansas City. And again, watch that Dameon Pierce ankle injury that he left in the 4th quarter.
Okay, watch the Cowboys do what they wanted to, kind of, although it was a couple of picks from Dak. It was 1 touchdown for Dak to Tony Pollard, by the way, 4 for 20 and a receiving touchdown, and 10 for 42 and a rushing touchdown. Zeke, 15 for 62 and a touchdown. Dalton Schultz, 6 for 87. Noah Brown, 4 for 85. In the first game, James Washington's back. Noah Brown's like, no, I'll be the number 3. Michael Gallup, 2 for 40. CeeDee Lamb, 5 for 33. So it was a start your Cowboys with confidence day. Zeke, Schultz, Pollard came through, but Prescott, CeeDee disappointed you today.
Yeah, they took them lightly. I really think you could see at least the passing game, the defense. They really took the Texans lightly. It was the Zeke and Pollard show on offense. Though Pollard looks so good. Congratulations to the team that signs Pollard. See, usually we say second running back contracts. No, no, no. But the Cowboys haven't used Tony Pollard that much. So actually, you're going to get his best years with the second running back contract because you see the explosiveness, you see the toughness, breaking tackles, and you see his ability to score as a receiver in this one, breaking a tackle on the way to the end zone there. But Dak just wasn't sharp. So CeeDee Lamb took some hits. Mo Brown doing more of the downfield work, Dalton Schultz doing more of the downfield work here, and it just wasn't an explosive passing game. It was the running backs doing a lot of damage, but Dallas trying to stay on the heels of Philadelphia, and they're going to Jacksonville next week.
Going to Jacksonville. We got the chat room talking about Jacksonville. Let's you and I talk about Lions and Vikings. There you go, Lions. Bloom, I'm sure you'll have a lot to say about this because, you go in, the NFL always throwing you curveballs, like the Broncos actually looking okay. But the Vikings, you're like, okay, they should win. They didn't, and the Lions get the win. It's 34-23. Kirk Cousins throws a couple of touchdowns, throws for 425 yards. And also, it was 14-7 at half.
Yeah.
So it's not like they were down, 21-0 and had to sling it. Okay, Dalvin Cook, 23 yards on the ground, rushing touchdown, 13 yards receiving. Justin Jefferson, 11 for 223. Insanity. 6 for 77 for DJ Hawkinson, 7 for 65 and a touch for Adam Thielen, 5 for 38 and a touch for KJ Osborne. If you had him in a what the heck flex, but what the heck, Minnesota should have won this one, I guess, but the Lions beat them up.
Yeah, a lot of those were empty calorie type yards as Detroit's defense was more bend but don't break here. Remember, in the first matchup, Justin Jefferson had 3 catches for 14 yards. A game the Vikings won with 2 28-yard passes to KJ Osborne on the last drive of the game, almost a walk-off touchdown. You did see them early on have some balance on the offense. Dalvin Cook scores, and then Dalvin Cook didn't get going at all. Remember, this was a Lions run defense that we were picking on earlier this year. No, they are picking on running back. Cecil, there was one play. This may be the first time in the history of the Audible I'm going to use this word. There was a play, a nice drive, Jefferson and Hawkinson. Hawkinson had a drop to end a drive early. Hawkinson made a few catches later on. There was a Hawkinson-Jefferson drive, and Dalvin Cook got the ball. Like, they tossed it back to Dalvin Cook, and he got bum rushed, straight up bum rushed. I think about 5 Lions were coming for him, and it almost looked like he was like, they want to hurt me, like these cans, the ball, they want to hurt the guy with the ball, and he fumbled. So this is why there's a lot of yards, not as many points for the Vikings. That fumble for Dalvin Cook costly, and we're seeing that combination we saw earlier this year where Detroit's offense is good, Detroit's defense has some give, they bend, so that creates a perfect fantasy-rich environment. And you saw that with Jefferson, with Hawkinson, with Adam Thielen, who was open on a deep ball, and Jerry Jacobs made a terrific play. So it was almost there so many times for this Minnesota team. Who's a better team here? It's hard to watch this game and say, oh, Minnesota, it was just a lucky game for Detroit. A few breaks went their way. Detroit looked like the better team here. Minnesota still has to win one more game to close out the division, get a home game to open the playoffs. They can try to do that next week against Indianapolis.
Against the Colts. And I'll say, Bloom, we probably said, yo, bum rush the show.
Yeah, maybe.
We talked about Public Enemy a ton on this program over the last 17 years. So I'm sure at one point I probably said my favorite album was Yo Bum Rush the Show.
Okay.
So testing 1, 2.
Takes a nation of millions.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Lions, DJ Chark, Jameson Williams. Getting it done. Love it. Jared Goff, 3 touchdowns, 330 yards in this one. DJ Chark, 6 for 94 and a touch. Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 68. Josh Reynolds, 5 for 51 and a touchdown. Jameson Williams, 1 for 41 and a touchdown. DeAndre Swift, only 21 yards on the ground, 18 yards as receiver. You saw Justin Jackson get the rushing touchdown. Jamal Williams didn't score. That's news, Bloom. 16 for 37 for Jamal, who still has 15 touchdowns on the day. No longer tying the Denver Broncos complete offense. But anyway, Detroit looking good, man. Feeling good after this type of win.
Yeah, they have to. I got to feel good. Jared Goff. And before this game, there was an item that he's the quarterback going forward, and he's showing why with that deep ball. The one to Jameson Williams, there's no one else on the screen. It was busted coverage early in the game. The one to DJ Chark was beautiful, perfect over the shoulder. DJ Chark doing his thing as a deep ball catcher. Josh Reynolds also scores. So, yeah, it's a floor game for DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams because Justin Jackson gets the touchdown. But just know this is going to remain a viable offense, except maybe next week against the Jets. We'll see also if weather plays a role in that one. Minnesota defense, yes, we're going to want to attack Matt Ryan and the Colts next week. Maybe not, but you're looking forward because this team has been hemorrhaging yards through the air. The Giants, Green Bay, maybe they're getting lucky here with the way the schedule is ending up for them. This is obviously a very vulnerable team in the playoffs, and a team, again, I don't think they were the best team on the field, not just today. And I want to see those Lions close it out. The toughest game they have left is against the Jets next week. So let's do this. Let's take this. Penny Sewell, the best play of the game here, sees they had to convert a first down. It was one of those ones where you can either pin them, just run it, run some clock, pin them, punt it. They call a pass to their left tackle or right tackle. Either way, a big man who catches it, gets a first down. Dan Campbell, mwah, chef's kiss.
Love it. Trevor Lawrence, chef's kiss. Next up, okay. And what a world we live in, Bloom, where I'm rooting for the Jaguars. But I love Trevor Lawrence, and I cannot lie. And they get the win today, 36-22 over the Tennessee Titans. Trevor Lawrence did play. A little bit banged up last week. 368, 3 touchdowns, no INTs. Evan Ingram playing out of his mind, 11 for 162 and 2 touchdowns.
That's a whole season for some of these tight ends.
Exactly. Zay Jones, 8 for 77 and a touchdown. Christian Kirk, 5 for 45. Marvin's Jones Jr., just because you smile, Bloom, 1 for 22. Yeah. Travis Etienne, 17 for 32. And Lawrence also had a rushing touchdown, so he had a big day and even made it larger thanks to that rushing touchdown. And the Jaguars 5-8, not going anywhere, but okay, you see signs.
Sure. Yeah, this is a win. It's in the division. And with Dammy Amendola not around, what are we going to do when Marvis Jones Jr. retires? See,
somebody else will come out of the woodwork.
So, there will be one. It's prophesized. Yeah. It's prophesized that Trevor Lawrence can be a savior for this franchise. Early on, Travon Walker forces a fumble on Ryan Tannehill. Speaking of guys that are supposed to save the franchise, Evan Ingram gets a touchdown right there. Then Tennessee seemed to take control of this game. We'll talk about how the Titans got some momentum back, but what really increased that momentum was, and this is how you know when things are going your way. Trevor Lawrence throws one right before the end of the first half that should have been picked, went off of the defender's hands. Zay Jones had to juggle it and made one of the most beautiful toe taps, and you got that pylon cam look. See, there was no doubt about it. It was, the centimeter of green, which from the view above, tough to discern. From the pylon view, very clear. Zay Jones having a good game. And that was it, right? Lawrence had a sneak to help. Ingram stayed hot in the second half. And this game was, I think, 14-13 at the half. And then Jacksonville, they got that momentum going into the half. They didn't need Travis Etienne. Don't play your running backs against the Titans. They didn't need Christian Kirk. You'll take 5 for 45 as a floor game. And again, these 5-8 teams went out. 9-8 is starting to look like it's going to get into the playoffs, maybe on one side, maybe on both sides. So Jacksonville, see, so what are the games now that teams should say, oh, pencil that in as a loss? They've got Dallas, the Jets, Houston, and Tennessee left. Hey, why not? I like seeing Jacksonville getting things going in the right direction.
No, run the tables. Tennessee Titans. All right, you got some stuff figured out.
Right.
The Mike Vrabel, John Robinson screaming match, which ended in Robinson getting fired. Ryan Tannehill goes 254, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Austin Hooper, 5 for 68. Robert Woods, 5 for 49. Chigi Okonkwo, I love him, 6 for 45 and a touchdown. Nick Westbrook-Akini, 3 for 23 and the other touchdown. Derrick Henry, 17 for 121 and 1 rushing touchdown. Also 3 for 34 in this contest there as well. So they try to put up a fight and have 8 fourth quarter points, but it was those 2 scoreless quarters in the middle that caused their downfall.
Derrick Henry gets off to a great start in this game, runs free. There's a 50-yard run that Chigi Okonkwo got the catch for the touchdown after that. Okonkwo had a catch down within the 5 on the first drive. Henry finishes that drive. Everything's looking great, right? Jacksonville's been on the receiving end of some big Derrick Henry days, and this looked like it was going to be another one. And Henry was running on a catch, and I can't remember who it was that knock the ball out, but Josh Allen was in the right place at the right time, the other Josh Allen. And that seemed to turn the momentum of this game. Henry didn't do anything after that. So when you look at Henry's stat line, was almost all in the first half. And then you just saw what happens if the offense is going to rely on Ryan Tannehill without Treylon Burks. You saw some Austin Hooper. Okonkwo didn't do too much in the second half of this one. There's also an Andrew Wingard pick of Ryan Tannehill that slowed things down too, because early in this game it looked like Tennessee was just going to run them out of the building. Dontrell Hilliard also gets hurt in this one. So that hurts this team because that mode of their offense, Hilliard had been making some plays in 2-minute drill as a passing down back. Now, you're looking at Julius Chestnut with Hassan Haskins hurt as the number 2 back for this team. So Tennessee still has a 2-game lead on Jacksonville. They still have to play Jacksonville again. They play the Chargers next week. Nothing is promised, but at least we know the head coach, not GM, is in charge. That's how it should be.
Yeah, that's how it should be, and that's how it is as we move on to our next game, and it's the Eagles and the Giants. And oh boy. Whew. The Eagles are running the football.
Oh, yeah.
And not just with Jalen Hurts. It's 48-22. Sorry, Giants. It was fun while it lasted. Jalen Hurts goes 21-31, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs in this contest. And then on the ground, 7 for 77 and a rushing touchdown. Miles Sanders, 17-144 and 2 rushing touchdowns. Boston Scott with a rushing touchdown, 6 for 33. A.J. Brown, 4 for 70 and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 5 for 64 and a touchdown.
Yeah.
And, well, that's pretty much it for everybody who would have started. But, my God, they just couldn't stop scoring rushing touchdowns, Bloom.
Yeah, Cease, my first note here. I'm not saying the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl, but I can't wait to see what kind of performance it takes to defeat them in the playoffs when you watch this team. And let's just take a note to say this, because Jalen Hurts, Cease, if we were evaluating Jalen Hurts before this season, you might, this is a great Matt Waldman RSP kind of topic, because it didn't look like Hurts had a great natural feel as a passer, right? As far as his accuracy and touch. I'm not saying
this was it for him as a passer. They were going to get him A.J. Brown and C. And if it didn't work out, they were going to replace him. But Howie Roseman, thank God for Howie Roseman.
Yeah.
They're taking on the personality of A.J. Brown, and that's awesome.
Right. And fortune favors the bold, because Jalen Hurts, have we ever seen a quarterback? I know the game slows down for quarterbacks, but Jalen Hurts' processor, I think the reason he fell to the second round is when you watched him back at Alabama and Oklahoma, his processor was just a quarter beat behind, and that becomes a half beat or a full beat in the NFL. And then that's what you saw. He didn't seem to have great feel and touch as a passer because he wasn't in sync with everything that was happening around him. Now he is, which is something I can't think of another quarterback off the top of my head, sees, that we watch them have a pretty large sample size of games. And then just the very next season, you see the game slow down to them to where Hurts looks like one of the best passers in the league. As far as his touch on the deep ball, as far as his synchronicity with the play design, it is something to behold. He's the MVP. It's not even a question. He's the MVP. I don't even think there's a conversation here. And if you drafted him and you made him part of your fantasy team, you deserve all the benefit you got from that. I think it's great. One of the things about fantasy football, it seems crazy, senseless sometimes. Why do we care so much about it? Well, because if you're smart enough to know that Jalen Hurts can take this kind of leap, if you have that kind of faith in him, if you have that vision, you're getting rewarded for that. Miles Sanders making himself some money, 14-play drive to open with 7 different receivers. Devontae Smith catches a touchdown on a 4th and 7. Somehow the ball finds its way. Julian Love had a beat on it, and I don't even know what he didn't know, if he want to go for the ball or the hit or the interception. I don't know what happened on it. Devontae Smith said, thank you. And then A.J. Brown gets an easy long touchdown, and then everything starts to come easy. You can only put up so much resistance to this Eagles team. Yeah, the divisional matchup, it mattered for Washington on Monday night. It did not matter as the Giants definitely looked overwhelmed in this one.
They looked overwhelmed, and, well, like I said, it was fun while it lasted, but it's not lasting.
No.
It's not lasting at all. So here we go. We're going to talk about the Giants side of things. And Bloom, well, Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor came in.
Yeah.
They both threw a touchdown.
Right. The backup quarterback got in. Oh, no.
Right. Rich man, poor man, right?
Yeah.
It's either great or it's awful. And, well, you decide. Tyrod Taylor, 2 for 40 on the ground to lead the way. Saquon Barkley's just broken, 9 for 28. It was like 50-50 he was going to play. Daniel Jones did a rushing touchdown. Richie James, 7 for 61 and a touch. Darius Slayton, 2 for 42. Isaiah Hodgins, 4 for 38 and a touch. Barkley had 2 for 20. Bellinger was out there 3 for 19. So it's like, once Barkley was broken, they just haven't been the same.
35 carries against Houston. You might want to rethink that next time you have that
against
opportunity.
Houston.
Against Houston. So yeah, you're right. The Giants, I mean, I want to say their last stand. They're 7-5-1, but next week against Washington, they need to make some sort of stand. Daniel Jones at least got you something for fantasy. He had a passing touchdown to Isaiah Hodgins when the game wasn't out of hand yet. He had a rushing touchdown, and then the last touchdown was Tyrod Taylor to Richie James. So there's not really anybody here, honestly. And with Barkley, I wanted a quick side on this because it's tough. And the ETN, we could also file under this. Because you could look at Barkley, especially being game time decision with the neck, and say, there's just no way this turns out well. And they haven't been involving him in the passing games for some reason. There's no way this turns out well, but we still can't just say, I think I had Barkley like running back 19 or something. But it's hard just to say bench Saquon Barkley when there's 6 teams on bye. But indeed, that was the right answer. So keep that in mind as we go forward. As there's running backs, Dalvin Cook's another one who comes to mind, that have this name value, but you might be saying at this point, well, what have they done to make me feel like I need to play them? So we'll see. Again, Washington, the Giants, Cecil would think the winner of that game, if they don't tie again, would be on their way to the playoffs. But watch out. Detroit's coming for you.
They are coming for you. And Brad asked, what happened to Dable's rational coaching? I think Dable took a stance that some coaches do. Not everyone does. Sean McDermott didn't. But Dable took the stance of like, well, these guys are getting washed out anyway. I mean, who thought they would even flash like they did earlier, right? We thought, what a disaster, and Dable will clean everything up, and, Jones one more year, Barkley one more year. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. He just used them up.
Yeah. I mean, if they had clarity that they weren't going to set the market with the Saquon Barkley contract, I mean, it kind of makes sense. You want to build a winning culture, and they certainly have got the ball rolling in that direction, but we'll see what the next move is for the new regime.
Yeah, Lester says Saquon couldn't turn his head. He was looking like Michael Keaton Batman.
Good reference.
There's a bad design on that Batman outfit, right? 89 Batman.
Well, it's the technology at the time, the best.
Where does he get these wonderful
polymers?
Toys?
Weren't caught up enough yet for all the, makeup, prosthetic types.
Right. Can we talk about polymers rather than Ravens Steelers? Can we do that? I mean, I guess we kind of have to, right? Ravens Steelers, everybody. Yay. Used to be beautiful. Used to be everything to us. Used to be, I remember watching Troy Polamalu jump over the pile and tackle Joe Flacco right after the snap, like upside down, like a pile driver.
Yeah.
And you and me and Folletti, I think, were in Mobile, just like taking the time out to make sure to watch this game and watch the incredible performances. You didn't get that today. 16-14, the final score. Tyler Huntley goes 8 of 12 for 88 yards. Okay. He's got legs, though, 9 for 31. All right. Anthony Brown comes in through 15 to 16 yards. Okay. J.K. Dobbins, he's got legs. 15 for 120 and a touchdown. So much for easing them back in. Gus Edwards, 13 for 66. Some hard-fought yards there. Demarcus Robinson, 5 for 52. Deshaun Jackson, 2 for 34. Mandrews, 2 for 17. And it was Kenyon Drake with 2 catches for 1 yard. So as you can see, 94 yards from the passing game, but 215 yards on the ground, most of that being Dobbins, and then a slight dash to the Gus bus as well to win and beat out the Steelers.
I guess we could have seen this coming. They have Tyler Huntley accurately scouted, self-scouting, and we saw when Gus Edwards came back, they went back to being a run-heavy team. Now with Edwards and Dobbins, they sealed that. Maybe in part because they didn't feel threatened by the Steelers. More on that later. But that was it. I mean, it's run the ball a lot and hold on for dear life. And hold on for dear life, the Steelers didn't really threaten them. So that's why Huntley was a dud. Huntley leaves with a concussion. Anthony Brown comes in. You might know him from Oregon. Remember Dennis Dixon, Cease? Anthony Brown could start next week for Baltimore, as Baltimore is headed to the playoffs. If they keep winning games like this, it doesn't necessarily mean they deserve to, because, well, we'll talk about the Steelers. The casualty here is Mark Andrews. Run first team, poor passing quarterback. Maybe we'll see Lamar Jackson back on Christmas Eve. That's the hope. But next week, and I'm not saying to bench Mark Andrews because, well, what else is out there at tight end? But you can see this is the blueprint for this team. They're playing Cleveland next week. I don't think Cleveland's going to force them out of that shell. The Steelers had a lot of opportunities to But Mitchell Trubisky said, not today.
Why couldn't they get Baker Mayfield? I know we don't recap the Thursday night game, but Baker, Mitchell.
Well, they didn't have
Mitchell
a chance.
Baker?
They didn't have a chance.
They wouldn't have had a
in
chance,
the off
right.
season. In the off season, they would have had to trade for him, I guess. I don't know. Baker Mayfield doesn't necessarily fit with the Steelers, although Mitchell Trubisky isn't a fit with anybody. And I'll hand it back to you.
Him out there, right?
Yeah.
Does Mitchell Trubisky cost Mike Tomlin his job?
Yeah. See, it was a glass half full, glass half empty game, but the glass was full of battery acid.
Oh, don't drink it. 3 picks
Slap it out
for
of your hand.
Trubisky, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do I have to? Najee Harris, 33 yards and a touchdown. Okay. Pat Freiermuth, 33 yards and a touchdown. Hey, it's the universe. George Pickens, 3 for 78, I guess. Deontay Johnson, 6 for 82, I guess. Like, it's Mitchell Trubisky, man.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to get.
What's sad is Mitchell Trubisky actually threw the ball well enough to restore some value to Deontay Johnson, one of his best games of the year. You saw a deep ball to George Pickens. Then on the next play, they go back to Pickens, pass interference in the end zone. So if you played Pickens today, you could have had a touchdown there. That's when Najee Harris gets his touchdown. And Trubisky, 22 for 30, he was throwing the ball well. Really, it's 25 for 30 because 3 of them were caught by Ravens, all on the Ravens end of the field, all with the Steelers driving. And Chris Boswell had a field goal blocked. So if any of those plays go the other way, pick any of them, the Steelers probably win this game. But they didn't. So they didn't. So now we have the Steelers offense. Now we'll see if Kenny Pickett goes out with a concussion early in this one. So we'll see next week against Carolina, who we'll talk about them. Carolina had a banner day. What do we do with this offense? You're going to still play Pat Freiermuth. You're a little more excited to play Deontay Johnson. Again, Pickens, at least there's something there in the deep game that we weren't seeing with Kenny Pickett. But I'm going to lay it out like this. Carolina, Las Vegas, Baltimore again, and Cleveland. The Steelers have to win all 4 of those games, or Mike Tomlin will have his first losing season.
I feel like Jerry Maguire and y'all expect me to freak out when we talk about the Broncos game.
You're like Bart Simpson in the class. Come on, do the line, do it.
Right. Say the thing. Rant about the Broncos. There should be a Jerry Maguire sequel, by the way, because of the way that Lee Steinberg's life went. Like they should write the next part of it. Right. And alcoholism, and then losing everything, and then cleaning up, and then getting Pat Mahomes. But also having Paxton Lynch, and one was a high maintenance client and one's not a high maintenance client, and one becomes a superstar and one, plays Xbox all day. So,
but the one that plays Xbox all day is the one that teaches the main character something about himself.
Yes. Conflict. You don't have a story if you don't have conflict. Boom, I can't write it. I got too many projects going on. But anyway,
someone else take that one.
I would rather talk about my comic book company than talk about the Broncos. But it was interesting today. 34-28, the final score. Kansas City gets a win. They're 10-3. Broncos lose. They're 3-10. So it's interesting because Mahomes feeds him 3 picks and a couple of those to Josie Jewell. So, all right, Jewell, way to go. MVP of the game, unless you want to say Jerry Jeudy. But 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 INTs. 2 touchdowns to Jerick McKinnon, 7 for 112 and 2. Juju Smith-Schuster, 9 for 74 and a touchdown there. Travis Kelce, 4 for 71. I guess they held him in check, kind of. But there were also multiple drops from Kelce. It was an unusual day for Kelce. At least 3 drops off the top of my head where it was like he was thinking about running after the catch and he just didn't secure the catch. So that he'd been over 100 yards, maybe throwing a touchdown, whatever is whatever. I've made Broncos country upset because I happen to mention that I wanted Isaiah Pacheco to be drafted instead of Montreal Washington. So everyone's butt hurt on Twitter. Shocker there. 13 for 70. Get out of echo chambers, people. I was telling you this before Elon Musk bought Twitter. Isaiah Pacheco, 3 for 23 as a receiver there as well. So Pacheco continues to do his thing in tandem with Jerick McKinnon, and the Chiefs get the win. But again, it's interesting. It's 21-0.
Right.
And then you turn around and was it 20? Yeah, 21-0. And then you turn around, all of a sudden it's 21-14 at the half. And you're like, wait a second, what's going on? At 27-21, like the Broncos can't score 14 points a game and they get 28 today?
Yeah.
Weird, Kansas City, weird.
Well, see, we had some games like this earlier this year where the team in the lead, the superior team, just lets up And in the NFL, emotionally, you can't get back to that level when you realize, oh, wait, the game's not over. And for the Broncos, maybe there's some pride there, especially for Russell Wilson. We'll get to that side of it. But Mahomes, not the sharpest day. At first, it seemed like it was going to be. And then when the game suddenly tightened up, Mahomes wasn't nearly as sharp. But you saw it was Jerick McKinnon, week winner, if you had him in. And aren't these the sweetest kind of plays? These 6 teams on bye, running back's pretty thin. You're like, well, I guess I have to plug in Jerick McKinnon. Oh, he got 30 points. Yeah, I had Chris Moore in one of my lineups, but Matt Schauf smoked me anyway. So Jeudy 3 times. I'm sorry, Juju. Whoa. We're not there to Jeudy yet. We're at Juju getting the touchdown.
We're at Juju, not to Jeudy yet. But Juju.
I got ahead of myself. Pacheco was still fine. He had a vision of Pacheco having a 100+ yard game whenever the Chiefs were up early. Kelsey had that floor game, but again, 4 for 71 we would take from a lot of our tight ends. Kansas City still chasing Buffalo, going to Houston next week. So we'll see. Again, Houston, I don't think they have another upset bid in them. Kansas City might have another letdown. For Denver, this was the Super Bowl, Cease, and at least they showed that they aren't going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, you weren't leaving at halftime. And we'll see with something very important. I think all fantasy GMs need to note going forward. If you think it's close, they don't trust Pacheco when the game is on the line.
Yeah.
It was almost all McKinnon until the very last play, and Pacheco got the run because it was a run, but McKinnon was out there a lot as they were trying to seal the deal. Sprung MC says Russ throws 3 TDs after throwing 8 to date, and he gets a concussion. So here comes Brett Rippon, and now we get to talk about why isn't Baker Mayfield in Denver? Because Baker would have won this game. Like, I love it. That's the greasy part of sports talk radio that I tend to enjoy sometimes. Like, sometimes I don't like it, but sometimes it's like, yeah, that's a great topic. Why didn't you get Baker Mayfield? Because he's better than Brett Rippon. But I hesitate talking bad about Brett Rippon because he's going to be a head coach someday. But at least he found Jerry Jeudy in the end zone, and Russell Wilson had 3 touchdowns, 247 yards, gets knocked out with a concussion. Also 57 yards rushing, like it was running Russ. And the thing that pisses you off about this whole thing, sorry, Joe, or YouTube, or whatever, for the love of God, aren't we adults? The thing that ticks you off, makes you really upset, gosh darn it, is the fact that you could have been doing this earlier. All along with Jerry Jeudy, all along with Russell Wilson. They still don't run the ball. Latavius Murray, 8 for 32. There you go. But Jeudy with the 3 touchdowns, 8 for 73 and 3. Marlon Mack, 2 for 62 and 1. And that's like Tecmo Bowl when you'd call the perfect play for that defense because they blitzed to that side. It was a screen to that side, and it was a touchdown to that side to Marlon Mack. Rumble bumble. Greg Dulcich, 3 for 42. It's okay, but like there were 3 drops. So it was almost like the Kelsey thing, except he didn't get 71 yards like Kelsey. He had 42 yards. But so it's like, okay, it's there, but you can still see like him and Russ aren't on the same page. He'll continue routes when he should sit down. He'll sit down when he should continue. And Russ and him just aren't on the same page yet. And now, well, we wait to see what happens with Russell Wilson. We wait to see what happens with Nathaniel Hackett. So much tea, Bloom. I won't spill it today.
Okay.
But it will be spilled. And you heard it here first.
Yeah. And you heard a lot of stuff here first, like Chiggy Okonkwo is the next Delaney Walker. Russell Wilson, you saw that switch flip because we saw it in Seattle, right? Where they would run the ball, they would fall behind, and then the fourth quarter said, go do your thing, Russ. And they fell so far behind in the first half that I guess they just said, finally, go do your thing, Russ. And you saw him feel it. I mean, maybe... See, you are much more privy to and aware of this stuff than most people, but I think you've been trying to lassie bark, hint, sometimes be very direct about just the psychic energy, the lack of connection and cohesiveness. And I feel like during those plays, that was starting to fade away. And we saw, well, what we hoped for when Russell Wilson became a Denver Bronco. So at least we have that because next year he's going to be the quarterback. And then he got hurt, got oops upside the head, got a lump on his head, literal big lump. Yeah. So Jerry Jeudy again, though, may not have had him in this week. There's no reason to put him in. We didn't have Russell Wilson. No reason to put him in. They're playing Arizona next week. So, the question is, And this is where you're at, like, because it's Seattle's pick, right? So maybe there's some pride there and making sure it's not the number 2 pick. Houston's going to get the number 1 pick. It's time for the postmortem, Cease. I think the body has arrived at the morgue.
Yeah, and it's Vance Joseph's defense. So get motivated, everybody. Let's talk about. I hope this next game, because let's just say, Bloom, I believe Tom Brady's going to be quarterback of the 49ers next year. That's what I believe. Let's just say that.
Just a personal belief.
Just my personal belief. Nothing else. That's just me. And I hope this game doesn't change their mind because the 49ers, 35, Brock Purdy, ladies and gentlemen. Is he the first quarterback to ever beat Tom Brady in his first start?
Yes, I believe so.
Wow.
I mean,
and the largest age gap, it's like 22 years, whatever. And Josh Johnson came in. So again, rich man, poor man, right? Like it was so good for the 49ers that Josh Johnson came in for Brock Purdy. So Tommy Brady, 34-55, 253, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. You'll be happier in San Francisco next year, Tom. Trust me. Chris Godwin, 5 for 54. Mike Evans, 4 for 44. Julio Jones, 5 for 38. Leonard Fournette, 6 for 33 as a receiver, 4 for 13 as a runner. Rashad White, 13 for 56. They just couldn't get anything going in this entire game. And San Francisco kept putting it on them because it reminds me of Big Mama's House too, right? Because I'm going to put it on you. That's what they did over and over and over again.
Yeah. You ready for Tampa Bay, Dallas in the first week of the playoff season? Ready for Mike McCarthy? Wow. Yeah, Mike McCarthy. Are you ready for that? They're only a game in first place. So maybe I shouldn't get ahead of myself. Brady, not sharp, really. There was a long touchdown to Mike Evans that was overturned by penalty. Evans, again, just the chemistry is not there. There was one when Evans got open and Brady was kind of trying to back shoulder, but threw to his ankles. You know, there was a 4th down. There's just a lot of that, a lot of failures at a bad time. Is Rashad White ahead of Leonard Fournette? I don't know. This game got out of hand. It's hard to read much into second half usage. Leonard Fournette looked fine in this one, but neither of these guys are worth that much. They're playing Cincinnati next week, one of the best pass defenses in the league right now. So, yeah, there's things aligned in the NFC South so that a not very good Tampa team is going to go to the playoffs. That being said, what do we have in the NFC picture? Again, Dallas, Philly are going. Minnesota just has to win another game. They're probably still back in if they don't win another game. Obviously, the Tampa and then San Francisco. We'll talk about Seattle in a second. Washington and the Giants. I just want another chance to say, Cecil, watch out for those Lions. They're coming.
Okay, there you go. You need your Lions shirt, man. I told you. Get it out the laundry.
I'm waiting.
Oh, okay. Don't bloom them.
No.
Don't bloom them. All right. Brock Purdy. And, dude, I love well-oiled machines. They just know what, hey, Brock Purdy's in. Okay, he's going to throw 20 times. Yeah, we're going to run it. And there was a game where, which game was? Oh, it was the Rams. It was the Rams game last year after they had traded and they picked up Odell and they picked up Vaughn, and the 49ers went into that week. And on Monday, Orlando Franklin told me the story. On Monday, Kyle goes in and says, gentlemen, it's going to take 40 runs to beat this team. And the Rams are like super hot. The 49ers at the time were like 3-7 or whatever, right? And it was Monday Night Football or whatever it was. So that game, you know how many times they ran it? They ran it 41 times.
Yeah, they won.
And Eli Mitchell had like 27 carries or whatever. So like, yeah, you just know who you are. Hey, it's Brock Purdy. Fine. We're going to run 40 times, 36, but whatever. So Brock Purdy comes in 16-21, efficient. Some really pretty passes, by the way. Purdy. You got to give it up to him. I saw him at the Shrine game. Wasn't real impressed. But, you know, hey, in this system, he knows what to do.
Exactly.
2 touchdowns, right? And 1 to Brandon Ayuk, 2 for 57 and a touch. Christian McCaffrey, 2 for 34 and a touch as a receiver, 14 for 119 and a touch as a runner. Deebo Samuel, he's banged up, 4 for 43. Tell us the latest there. George Kittle, 4 for 28. Okay, so there's, you know, you're going to sacrifice some production for your receivers, whatever. Jordan Mason, 11 for 56 on the ground. Deebo Samuel had a rushing touchdown. By the way, Brock Purdy had a rushing touchdown. So 3 rushing touchdowns, 200 yards on the ground, almost 40 times, just 20 passing attempts, roughly. Just well-oiled machine, man. That's why you can win 35-7 over a team that's licking their chops because they're facing Brock Purdy.
Right? So, see, I think what this shows us is the confidence. Again, there's that word confidence that you have as a quarterback when you understand what you're looking at and you understand what you have at your disposal. He was just full of intent, right? It looks like everything is very clear to him. And that is the nature of this offense. It's an extension of the head coach, an extension of the offensive design type of offense. You really don't have to think very much as a quarterback. You just execute, and boy, he was. And yeah, Brock Purdy is potentially going to be, now the rushing touchdown he might not get most weeks, but there are a lot of worse options. I got a team that's going to be a number 1 seed. I've got Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, and Aaron Rodgers. Don't ask. I'm probably going to be starting Brock Purdy, right? I mean, why not? Going up against Seattle on a short week next week. My Larry David here is pretty good. This team now, Deebo Samuel goes out with an ankle, not a knee. Tom Pelissero reporting they don't think it's a serious injury. So we're looking at Brock Purdy. You get them to the playoffs with the division title, maybe start a playoff game at home against a Washington Giants, Detroit kind of team. And then Jimmy Garoppolo maybe is healthy. Deebo Samuel, you get the rousing Willis Reed, the injured players off the bench. Let's see how far we can take this because we know the defense is good. We know the running game is good. Christian McCaffrey looked terrific. Fantastic. Brandon Ayuk, after Deebo Samuel goes out, gets a touchdown for us. So there's a reason with Samuel likely out to keep him in, even George Kittle, because it is tight end. Again, San Francisco, Seattle, that was one of those marquee rivalries. Now it's a really big game as it can decide the division. I believe San Francisco can clinch. That would help with these injuries. For Seattle, Cease, blame us. Some of these early season feel-good stories not feeling so good.
And the great thing about the 49ers is they're just going to be there.
Yeah.
They're just going to be there. Kyle, God bless America. Just get him the right quarterback, Tom Brady. As soon as the season's over and they start opening the odds on Super Bowl champion for the next year, I might throw something down on San Francisco before free agency.
Yeah.
Just because, man, Kyle, come on. Kyle, like, come on. Damn it. All right, we got one game left to talk about, Bloom. As you love Dan Campbell, I love Kyle. So there you go. That's you love what you love, right? Yeah, it's all about the love. It's all about the love for Sam Darnold, huh? Okay, tricky Sam Darnold. All he had to do was take 9 weeks to get healthy, and here we go. Sam Darnold, 30, or Carolina 30, and the Seahawks 24. Seahawks are now 7-6. Oh, Panthers are 5-8. What?
Game out of first.
Sam Darnold, 120 yards, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Huh? Laviska Shenault, the leading receiver. What? Shai Smith with a receiving touchdown. Huh? I mean, I like Shai.
Right.
I do. I like him in like Super Deep Dynasty. I think it was Senior Bowl. I saw him. There was like him and Frank Darby was there. I love me some Frank Darby and like Crazy Deep Dynasty. But anyway, Chuba Hubbard, 74 yards on the ground, rushing touchdown. Dante Foreman, 74 yards, no rushing touchdown. Raheem Blackshear, 32 yards, and the other rushing touchdown. So there you go. Again, 46 rushing attempts. We're going to run the hell out of the ball. Yeah. We're going to throw it 24 times. That's it. We're going to limit what our quarterback does, and he's going to be safe. No picks there. So there you go. That was the recipe for Carolina all along. Get rid of Matt Rule, start Sam Darnold, and set the world on fire.
Yeah, with the running game. And we saw this before Chuba Hubbard got hurt. There was a 1-2 punch. Remember the first game without Christian McCaffrey? What do? They ran the ball extremely well. They did it again in this one. And yeah, Seattle has got an Achilles heel that you're going to target, not Tariq Woolen. You're going to run the ball. So it was Hubbard actually with the better fantasy game here. But Dante Foreman, you can't be disappointed with the game script. You can't be disappointed with the work. Raheem Blackshear, you like seeing him making a career here for himself, landing on this roster and making some things happen. Not DJ Moore. So what's 30 points? DJ Moore must have no, he didn't do anything because this is a team when they're in their comfort zone. They're going to keep running the balls. Even Sam Darnold, there's not much there. Just don't make any mistakes. This team is a game out of first place. Next week, Tampa Bay plays Cincinnati. Next week, Carolina plays Pittsburgh.
Okay. There you go. That was a very, very wicked laugh.
Yeah, well, because remember, Atlanta barely beat Carolina earlier this year. When we thought, okay, well, that's the end of Carolina. Because Carolina could have pulled that into I think it would have been a 4-way tie or something like that. Close. And now Carolina's back. Atlanta's back. They play New Orleans next week. The NFC South and madcap slapstick
Madcap slapstick, and you almost sounded like Vincent Price.
Wow. It was like, who was in Thriller? That was Vincent
That was
Price?
Vincent Price, yeah.
Yeah. That's got to go back and listen to that one again.
That's right. Seattle side, problemas. Of course, no Ken Walker, Travis Homer. I mean, everyone's been like sick or banged up, DJ Dallas, whatever. Like, so Travis Homer leads the way on the ground with 26 yards. Why isn't it working for Seattle? Well, they're having to rely on Geno a little bit more. And Geno, God bless him, loved the story. They wrote me off. I didn't write him back. Love it. He's still, you don't necessarily want him doing this. You want a strong ground game and efficient football. 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs. So Marquise Goodwin, 5 for 95 and a touch. DK Metcalf, 5 for 71 and a touch. Tyler Lockett, 5 for 60 and a touch. Nobody else did much of anything else, including Noah Fant. That didn't last very long. And this is what you're going to get. So they have some things to figure out, and they're running out of time, and their schedule doesn't take it easy on them.
No, San Francisco in 4 days. Like you said, they're relying more on Geno Smith. Few passes he would like to have had back, really. And that's just part of what we sadly have come to expect from Geno. And he had another good one this week, Cecil. He said something to the effect of, my hard times in NFL would have been some people's dreams come true. So
damn, you love that perspective, man.
You really do. You really do. And that's kind of why we're rooting for him. You did see him in garbage time get that last touchdown to Goodwin, who I love that they brought up, by the way, that Goodwin tried to make the Olympics as a long jumper. I think he was like 3rd in the trials or something like that.
He's a Texas kid.
Yeah. And I think he has like a special needs sister he takes care of, and Goodwin's a good guy. And it's good to see him have success here. Actually, more fantasy value than Metcalf or Lockett, who both had fantasy value, because we knew this offense was going to run through Geno Smith's arm. But Noah Fant back to, being, I think, a 0 in this one. So let's see Seattle, 7-7. If they lose to San Francisco, if Detroit can beat the Jets, they'll be 7. All right, I'll stop.
There you go. That is a wrap for today's program. We certainly appreciate everyone for watching, for listening. And Sigmund, it's about playoff time. Everyone, it's about playoff time. So get your popcorn ready. If you made it, congrats. If you didn't, we'll keep listening.
Yeah. Hang out. The chat room. We got waffles. We got pancakes. We got brunch. We got eggs Benedict.
We got daiquiri, man.
We got daiquiris. We got daiquiris, waffles, and pancakes. Who could want anything more?
Chris is putting up his Christmas lights. Yeah. Just don't do it while you're drinking daiquiris, buddy. Or the bong grip that Will C was talking about. But either way, we got it all for you. And Benjamin, of course. Ian's cat. Like everybody, man. We love you all. And he's Sigmund. Follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. The show is at the Audible. I am at Cecil Lammey. Pissing off Broncos fans wherever I go. That's fine. They'll be all right. And I will too. Until the next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated, stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty.